Have you ever wondered how one of the most isolated, impoverished, and heavily sanctioned countries in the world managed not only to deceive, but also to humiliate the most powerful Western nations, stealing over $1.5 billion without ever needing to fire a single shot? This isn't a fictional espionage thriller. It's a real event that exposes one of the greatest vulnerabilities of the modern world: our dependency on digital systems, and our arrogance in underestimating those who operate in the shadows. While the United States, the European Union, and other global powers imposed sanctions, froze accounts, limited imports, and diplomatically isolated North Korea, Kim Jong-un's regime was quietly orchestrating its silent revenge, not with tanks or missiles, but with lines of code and a cyber network as efficient as it is invisible. In this video, you'll understand in detail how this attack was executed, how the money was laundered, why North Korea made this a state strategy, and, most importantly, what this episode reveals about the future of global digital security and the very fabric of the world order. Stay with me until the end, because the most disturbing part of this story is yet to come. It was February 21st, 2025. At the headquarters of Bytes, one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, with over 60 million users, everything seemed normal. Its CEO, Benzu, had just authorized another routine internal fund transfer, necessary to ensure the platform's liquidity, meet withdrawals, and adjust positions. But that night, what seemed routine would become the greatest financial disaster Bytes had ever faced. Just 30 minutes after the approval, Benzu's phone rang. On the other end, the CFO's panicked voice delivered the words no one ever wants to hear. "We've got a problem. All the Ethereum, it's gone." What does all the Ethereum mean? It means that hundreds of millions in digital assets, belonging to investors, companies, and funds, had simply vanished. In a world where trust is the foundation of the cryptocurrency market, an attack of this kind isn't just theft. It's a death sentence for any exchange that can't contain or explain the failure. Within hours, independent analysts, forensic experts, and, of course, the FBI were virtually on the scene, trying to piece together what had happened. The culprit, the usual suspect, but this time with unprecedented audacity: North Korean hackers. This wasn't just a simple breach of a vulnerable exchange. It was an attack planned, executed, and completed with military precision, netting the North Korean regime no less than $1.5 billion in crypto assets, the biggest cryptocurrency heist in history. But how could a nation often dismissed as an international pariah execute a heist of such magnitude? When we think of hackers, we imagine dark rooms, complex codes, passwords cracked through brute force, but the truth is far more sophisticated and terrifying. North Korean hackers don't need to be cryptography geniuses. They're masters of something far more dangerous: social engineering. The attack began with a series of seemingly harmless emails, job interview invitations, attractive offers for software developers. Want to make more money? We're expanding our team, interested in your profile, click here to join the selection. Simple as that. And, as always, someone clicked. That's the beauty and tragedy of social engineering. It's not about breaking systems, but breaking people. The North Korean hackers managed to compromise the computer of a developer who, ironically, wasn't even a direct Bytes employee, but worked for a third-party software provider responsible for digital wallet systems. In other words, it wasn't Bytes' core system that failed, but its supply chain. This type of attack is known as a supply chain attack, and it's quickly becoming one of the most effective forms of cyber infiltration. Once inside, the malware granted the hackers administrative access to systems, allowing them to move assets without triggering immediate alarms. But breaching was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead: how to launder over $1 billion in crypto assets without getting caught. Laundering cryptocurrency is paradoxically both easier and more complex than laundering traditional money. On one hand, all transactions are recorded on the blockchain, accessible to any analyst with the right tools. On the other, the sheer multiplicity of wallets, blockchains, and anonymization tools makes tracking a game of cat and mouse. The North Korean hackers began by spreading the stolen funds across thousands of wallets. This fragments the value, making simultaneous blocking and tracking extremely difficult. Then, they used specialized mixing services that blend cryptocurrencies from various origins, creating yet another layer of confusion. And of course, they engaged in chain hopping, moving assets between different blockchains, as if jumping from one hideout to another, eliminating clues with each leap. Here's a nuance that many miss. Mixing and chain hopping are not inherently illegal. They're legitimate tools for privacy preservation. But in the wrong hands, they become powerful instruments for money laundering. The result? Despite a global mobilization by authorities and the shutdown of multiple mixers, the North Koreans managed to convert between 80% and 90% of the stolen funds into real money through clandestine networks, and with the support of international criminal organizations, primarily linked to Chinese organized crime. This structure isn't improvised. It's part of a global cybercrime ecosystem where each actor, from hacker to launderer to obscure exchange operator, plays a specific role. And while the world focused on physical wars, North Korea developed its digital war. The question that always arises: why does North Korea go to such lengths? The answer is brutally simple: survival. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, North Korea has seen its traditional revenue streams dry up. International sanctions, trade blockades, and diplomatic isolation have reduced legitimate commercial possibilities to the bare minimum. Kim Jong-un's regime, fully aware that maintaining power requires money, found in cybercrime an alternative as lucrative as it is difficult to thwart. But this isn't a recent strategy. Since the 1980s, Pyongyang has systematically invested in developing technology specialists. The country's computer science schools, initially created for espionage and sabotage, shifted focus to cybercrime in the 2010s. Talented youths are identified, recruited, trained, and given no choice. In North Korea, there's no Google, no Microsoft, no Samsung to employ them. The only employer is the state, and the outcome of this policy is evident. In 2019, a team of North Korean university students ranked 8th in the world's largest programming competition, surpassing institutions like Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge, and Oxford. This is Kim Jong-un's true army. Not soldiers with rifles, but hackers with keyboards. And the money gained from these attacks serves not only to buy luxury goods and appease the regime's elite, but, most important, to finance the nuclear programs that underpin North Korea's strategic position on the global chessboard. The Biot's attack wasn't just a financial heist, it was a message. No one is safe. By 2023, cybercrime was estimated to account for more than half of North Korea's foreign currency revenue. What once required sending millions of laborers abroad or engaging in illicit activities like drug trafficking can now be done by a few dozen hackers, operating from closed rooms in Pyongyang. Western powers attempt to respond. The United States, Japan, and South Korea have launched joint operations, blocked mixers, and sanctioned suspected operators. But the hackers adapt. They migrate to new platforms, strengthen their encryption, and, more recently, have begun using artificial intelligence to make phishing emails even more convincing, sophisticated, and personalized. Imagine the power of automatically sending millions of messages in dozens of languages, impersonating recruiters, banking alerts. This is both the present and the future of cyber warfare. While governments debate, form committees, and sign treaties, North Korea acts, and the next attack may already be underway. It could target another exchange, a bank, or even your digital wallet. This isn't just a story about cryptocurrencies, but about the power of adaptation, about how an underestimated country managed to outsmart the world's greatest powers and permanently alter the landscape of global digital security. The biggest heist in history is an uncomfortable reminder: we are all vulnerable. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment. What would you do if you were the CEO of the exchange? Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any content about the dark underbelly of finance and international politics. Until next time, and remember, while you're watching this video, somewhere, someone might already be planning the next big attack.